All right, welcome back, class. I hope everyone has been having a good, lighter session, as last week was a vacation and then it wasn't a vacation, but we were trying to be lighter on work and all the craziness that's going on. I know that it's been a little bit since we've had one of these kind of lessons, so we're going to dive right in. Going back over last week, I gave you guys a packet that really fully encompassed and gave you a full overview of President Andrew Jackson and the things that go on during his administration. Instead of just having that being the only way to really give you guys this information, I thought I'd do a couple lessons on a little bit of a review, a little bit of a culmination, bringing everything together. I want to ask you guys some more thought questions than just facts and really see how you guys took in the information. So, you know, the information in this lesson and the next lessons to come should be pretty easy and pretty should just be a refresher on what you guys did in that packet over the last week. So hopefully it'll go smooth. So let's dive right in. So Jacksonian democracy, part 1. We got a picture of President Andrew Jackson on there. Andrew Jackson, before his presidency. As a teenager, Jackson fought in the American Revolution. He was held prisoner and slashed by a British officer, so he got attacked. And this would leave a lifelong scar down his left side. It actually ran from a little bit under his face, a little bit on his face, all the way down his side and to about his hand. He studied law and taught in North Carolina. And in 1787, he passed the bar exam, so he became an official lawyer, and moved to Tennessee. And so I kind of gave it away there, but 1787, he passes the bar exam, he becomes a lawyer, but there's also a little meeting going on in Philadelphia at the time that's going to dramatically change the way law and the entire government performs in this country. Little event called the Constitutional Convention. I think you guys might remember it. We spent a little bit of time on it. I can hear all the light bulbs going off in all your heads as you remember way back in room 130 in Great Neck North Middle School. So here we go. We got the map of the United States. As you can see on the right, towards the lower part of the map, got pink North Carolina, and right to the left of it is Tennessee. So Jackson studies law and does a little teaching in North Carolina, and then he moves out to Tennessee. It was out in Tennessee on the frontier. The frontier meaning the edge of this country of ours, because as you can see, the pink is the states, and then we're getting into the Indiana Territory, the Louisiana District of Louisiana, the Louisiana Territory. These are not states yet. This is not established land. So that's referred to as the frontier. So on the frontier, Jackson would make a name for himself as a lawyer and business person. He became a prosecutor. He bought property and he bought slaves, and he served in the state government. So he's starting to create the person that he will become. And we're going to see as we study him later in life and in his presidency how the ideas of what's going on the frontier, what's going on in the legal system, the concept of owning slaves, and the importance of state governments and what he participated in will clearly be roots and will be the beginnings of the creation of the person that ends up taking the office of president. So, but even with all of this success, Jackson takes a little time away from his business in order to serve his country. And this is the Jackson that we already know. Jackson, in his military career, so he joins the Army. There he is. As a U.S. Army colonel, Jackson achieved national fame for his victory over Native Americans in the Creek War. So I underline national fame. He becomes a national fame. He becomes a person that the entire country knows. And it's important to realize the second part of that sentence. It's a victory over Native Americans. So it's not really a spoiler, as you guys have already done that packet over last week. But Jackson's treatment of the Native Americans are very much like they are second-class citizens. They are not as important as these new United States of American white individuals are. And it's important to realize that that's also how he first becomes a national figure, is that he defeats them in battle. Just, it's going to be a familiar theme as we see him going through his presidency. So, upon this national fame, he gets promoted to general. And now this is where we talked about him before. General Jackson would again be recognized nationally for the victory over the British at the Battle of New Orleans during the War of 1812. So if you remember, when we studied James Madison and his presidency, we were at war with the British once again. And it's Jackson and his decisive victory at the Battle of New Orleans that ends up really bringing that war to an end. And while he did get some fame when he was a colonel in the Creek War, many historians point to his victory as a general in the Battle of New Orleans as the direct proponent to him eventually becoming the president of the United States. In 1818, Jackson's forces won the First Seminole War, and this war would directly lead the United States' acquisition or gaining of Florida. Not necessarily making it a state, but gaining the territory. But that's to be discussed in a later date. While serving in the Army, Jackson got the nickname of Old Hickory because he seemed unbreakable in battle. Hickory is kind of this unbreakable material. So if he's Old Hickory, it means he's been around a lot and he survived a lot. And his military might and his military wit and his military strength gave him this nickname. So, I am now going to give a little break for a second because there is a video attached on Google Classroom on the post that I am going to ask you guys to look at and answer the questions below. So watch the video, it's about 5 minutes, and you're going to have to answer these questions, and then the next slide has a question as well. So get to it. I'm sorry for the little mess up of the lines here. You know, sometimes I make it on my computer, and then when I download it, it gets a little messed up, but take a break, so close out of this, go watch the video, and then come back to my slides and my video to finish off the lesson. All right, so I'm assuming you guys got this one. It's pretty straightforward from the video. The second, the will of the people had been violated. You know, what are we talking about here? In a few sentences, explain what this statement means. And if in the case of this corrupt bargain, is it true? And if it's true, why is it true? So again, this is more of you guys' opinion, and I'll be grading that as it comes in. All right, the corrupt bargain's aftermath. While Jackson does lose the election of 1824, this loss is not forgotten. What is lost is not forgotten. By the election of 1828, after all this corrupt bargain stuff, the era of good feelings that we have talked about during the presidency of James Monroe, and the harmonious getting along has come to an end in politics in this country. No longer are we playing nice together. The corrupt bargain and a lot of other things going on over these developing years has led to a rift in the people in this country. It's starting to lead to conflict and disagreement. The two-party system is back. And what are we talking about when we talk about two parties? Two political groups. The National Republican Party on our left with Mr. John Quincy Adams, President John Quincy Adams being the leader, and the New Democratic Party with their leader being Andrew Jackson. So, Jackson's New Democratic Party. Jackson and his supporters abandoned the old Democratic Republican Party and formed the New Democratic Party. And now you know why I have that little emoji. I know. It's really not that confusing at all. Mr. Axelrod once told me a funny quote that I'd like to use right now. He describes it when he was talking about the Declaration of Independence, and that Thomas Jefferson did not write the Declaration of Independence for 7th graders. Well, unfortunately, Andrew Jackson did not leave the Democratic Republican Party to create the new Democratic Party for 7th graders. So do your best to remember, and I know it's difficult, but try and focus on these new names. The new Democratic Party wanted Jackson to present himself as a self-made success, emphasizing or really focusing on the fact that he was a common man. So my question to all of you is, why do you think this new Democratic Party was trying to portray Jackson as a common man? What do they mean by a common man? So take a few minutes, pause this video, answer the question in the lines below or wherever, and in a few sentences. Then come back and feel free to keep going. Jackson's new Democratic Party. This new party's supporters included urban, so people that live in cities, labor union workers. These people wanted better working conditions. Small farmers. These people wanted land reforms. They wanted to be able to, get more land, and they needed a banking system, a bank that would loan them money, as most of the banks at the time were really only loaning to smaller businesses or bigger businesses. They didn't really have interest in helping out the smaller farmers who wanted to get more land to be able to grow more crops and make more money for themselves. And it also attracted Southern planters. These people wanted states' rights and lower tariffs. You guys remember what tariffs are? Taxes on imports and exports, particularly on agricultural products. So these are the people. Each of these above groups of people felt that the current federal government, so the people like John Quincy Adams and the current people in power, were favoring wealthy northern manufacturers and bankers, and were not looking out for the interests of common people, the people listed above. So my question, just don't need to write anything, but does this sound familiar? And for those of you that remember, feel free to put a little comment in Google Classroom on this assignment for me. If you can make a connection to how this sounds familiar to that picture. And maybe there's a little bonus point or two in there for you. So, after all this, what's the fate of this National Republican Party led by Quincy Adams? Well, in 1828, Jackson won the election with 56% of the popular vote and 68% of the electoral vote. Having lost to Jackson in this election, Quincy Adams was replaced by Henry Clay from Kentucky as the leader of the National Republicans. In 1832, Clay ran for president against Jackson and lost by an overwhelming margin. So in 1833, the National Republican Party is dissolved and would be no more, and what would come out of it would be the Whig Party. And no, it has nothing to do with them being bald or having fake hair on their heads. Again, I can feel your laughter through the video. Please, guys, try and contain it. We're in class. So, guys, that's it for now. Again, this should be an easier kind of quick breeze through because of that packet and a lot of the background you guys already have. Please make sure that you've answered all the questions in the packet. Keep an eye out for Google Classroom for announcements, assignments, and any other Zooms we may have this week. As always, keep up the great work. I miss you all, and I will talk to you again soon. Thanks, and have a good day.